I'm Les Monaghan. I've been a tutor on the photography course since the beginning of 2013. I thought this was an interesting question because delineating between practice and career, and they're both the same to me. I think it's mixed in together. So for me, the education bit actually fits in with what I make, because some of the questions that come up when you're working with students or the public or anything like that informs the practice, which is the art practice. This. Okay, so carrying on from that last question, it's there's no real split, and they have to mix together. And I do need to teach because selling artwork directly, that's not being bought. You know, nobody's going to the website and saying, I want to buy that piece, and what's your price for that, and it's framed or unframed or anything like that. They're usually part of a series. They're usually part of a bigger exhibit or something like that that's trying to get a message across, so they need to all work together. And they're not made for that kind of audience, I suppose. I wouldn't mind, obviously. And I've got work I think it's beautiful work. Like, I don't think it often has that aesthetic appeal that people are looking for when they're buying stuff. Perhaps they don't want a reminder of Dave's carpet in their living room when they're buying it. So it's not made to sell, but sometimes this was funded, this was crowdfunded, so there's money coming in there, and then this directly led to commissioning, so there's money coming from there. So that's how getting money. But also, I teach as well. This exhibit was particularly designed to be an exhibit to constantly be going around. If I could, I would exhibit this in every constituency in the country, because that's what the point of this is, to inform people about people in destitution. But at the moment it's here in the Minster. This is Doncaster Minster. It's also on at 2 libraries in Doncaster's library service. So at the moment it's at Intake Library, and it's also at Roslington Library, and it's due to move right now to another 2 libraries. It's going to Barnsley Libraries, Bristol Libraries have asked for it. It's meant to be going to Leeds Libraries and hopefully Sheffield Libraries as well. So it's constantly going on. Other exhibitions have kind of not fallen by the wayside, but been put on the back burner, while this one is the primary one. Absolutely, considering the viewer straight away, that it was designed, I think, as I was with people, asking them about their lives, and they're talking to me, and I'm sat in Dave's, they're all from his living room. That's just his hallway. I've just walked out the door. But as I'm sat with them, talking to them, I'm thinking, how am I going to translate this for the viewers, and who are the viewers I've got in mind? The reason this is in a Minster is because there's a section, I think, of the population that has no idea that this is how a huge other chunk of the population live. And I try to work out who are those people that I'm not reaching. If I was going to put all this on a website, social media and all the rest of that stuff, who's still not going to be reached? And so there's part of the church-going audience they're definitely not reaching. And the libraries are very key to it, because they've got an older demographic as well, similar to here, who are also not reached by loads of those other kind of media. But they are reached by some media, and that will be the kind of media that demonises these people, that say they're scroungers, that say that despite him working all his life, paying all his dues, paying all his bills, he should still have to pay for a room that he doesn't use. He should still be sanctioned just because he goes into what he calls a job centre, that's not what it's called anymore, looking for a job and asking them to help him get a job, and gets a bit grumpy when they don't offer him a job, because that's what he has done all his life. I don't think people know that this kind of thing goes on, so who are those people that don't know that, and how to reach them? And so that's why they're in these places. And how they look, well, the photographs are designed in the first place, and then how they're shown, I'm just thinking, just keep it simple. Just make it so people are looking at this and just going, that's some information. That must be telling me something about that. And it does. That's how he works out his bills. But this tells you, where his money's going and itemising it. So when he's itemised it there, and he's just got B tax, people need to know that means bedroom tax, and then people need to know an explanation, what's bedroom tax? And then they're thinking, why is this guy paying bedroom tax? This is meant to be as clear as possible, so that you're walking around and you're getting information, but you're also being hopefully stimulated, you're recognising things, you're seeing things, you're in the room with them. That was the main thing, particularly with Dave's story, it was to be in the room with him. So the first part, I don't think, and when people hopefully do the self and other, which is level 2, they'll say, I don't think we can untangle ethics from photography. Some people try to do it, and they'll say they're apolitical, or they'll just say, I just took the picture. I don't think that's on. And you'll see in self and other, that, like I give an example of that, I really don't think that you can construct a photograph that shows us a mass of refugees one summer walking through Europe, basically trying to get to Germany, that you could construct that photograph, give it to your agency, and then just absolve yourself from all responsibility for what you've created there, and then what your agency might do with that. And then a far-right organisation in the UK might use that for a poster, perhaps, that might swing a referendum that might affect every single person in these isles and Europe for generations to come. You know, photographs have got power, you know, so ethics comes into this. You've got to think about what it is you're making. I'm thinking about how I show Dave's house. You know, if I show that his curtains are ripped down, it's not an aesthetic choice. It's like, do I want to show? Is that shorthand for saying how poor he is? Is that shorthand for saying that perhaps he doesn't care? You know, if you can see the light there, the way it's coming in, you can see that his windows probably need a bit of a clean. I need a bit of clean. You know, who am I to judge? But I have judged because I've made the picture and I put it here, and Dave's not here to answer back. And dozens, hundreds, thousands of people eventually see this and go, you know. And so you have to, every bit of it has to be thought about. And that's what ethics is, isn't it? It is about, particularly in photography, it's how I'm presenting it to you for you to make a choice or decision, which is what I'm asking you to make about this. So I have to be very careful how I show, particularly his house, because he's not well off. But, you know, if you read through the text, you find out that he's terminally ill. You're just thinking, so what if he hasn't dusted before Les came around? You know, just really, so what? So I think it's massively important, and particularly in photography. I think we're making these choices, it's our lives, and we're making these choices all the time, but in photography, it's taken away, out of context, shown later. You know, the example about, you know, taking the photographs of the refugees and he was just making it in the back of his head. We know that he had images from pre and post Second World War in his head, and he was trying to make something epic and all the rest of it. But then, what's that going to do? How's that going to be used later? You've got to think about that. So when I think about audiences, which was the previous question, I'm thinking, how's somebody going to react? I can't second guess you all, but what I'm trying to give you is it so that you're minded, hopefully, to feel differently about this guy to if you just, you know, walk past him in the street. The last 3 governments, and conservatism in general, the idea that to make this, that I should be making money from it, that should directly turn into money, into me being entrepreneurial, and figuring out a way to monetize a man holding out his hand and saying, this is how much money I've got, 5 pence. I think that's a threat to creativity. I think why I say the governments is in particular because of their sort of assault on everything from the age of 5 up to certainly through to 18 plus. So HE, FE, and school, both primary and secondary, the removal of all those courses. And we know kids when they're 3, if you ask them what they want to be and you say, do you want to be an artist? Every person in the nursery puts their hand up because they do art all the time. People want to create stuff. The problem is as you get older, it's seen as, it's a positive for us, every act of creation is radical. Well, being radical is the opposite of the status quo, of conservatism, of keeping things as they are. So because you're making change, you're challenging, you're thinking about how things could be different, you think about the future, you're thinking about the past in a different way. So you're challenging. It doesn't have to be as, perhaps this is radical, to come into a really large place of worship, the biggest place of worship in Doncaster, and remind people that there are people worse off than them, and perhaps within the teachings of what this is supposed to relate to, we are supposed to look after these people, if you can look after people. So I think creativity is what we've all got in us. I truly believe that it's the thing that keeps most of us going. I mean, you can be creative in business, we know about this, but it's that kind of, it's still tied to money, isn't it? Why not just do it? We know at some point the OCA has to charge money for the things that we offer, but we also want to nourish people and make people feel that what they choose to do is a worthy thing to do, just because. So I think the threats to it, sadly, are the people in charge. We kind of know what they want to do, is they always want to pull funding from the creative things because they can't directly make a link. Yet of course they'll say that the creative industries provide absolutely huge benefits to the economy. We just should be allowed to make stuff, and it should be facilitated. But unfortunately everything's monetised. So it's so difficult for us to challenge that sort of orthodoxy that this, I've already said it in one of my answers, this doesn't make me any money. It doesn't. So it's like, why am I doing it? It's like, because I believe something's got to change. And I can't tell this story with facts. This was based on the Joseph Rowntree Foundation's report, which was facts. It said 1.25 million people in destitution. Yeah, everybody ignores it. So, got to come up with something else that possibly might get that across. So let's just think about what that means for one guy, who could be your uncle, could be your dad, could be your stepdad, could be him. He hasn't got his heating on at home, and he's got nothing in his fridge, and he's wearing the same clothes that he wore last year, year before that.